Hello and welcome back. I'm Karen Sullivan of Soul Symbols, and this is our Friday contemplation. On Mondays, I look at the wider sky, the broad view and the larger pattern, and that archetypal web moving through our collective field. And on Fridays, I come down to the ground, into our lived reality and that felt texture of a pattern. So we will be moving on Fridays into deeper explorations of not only what it means in the sky, but in our bodies, choices, relationships, and in the deeper architecture of life. So get your headphones, put your feet up, and enjoy this reflection with me. This week I've been reflecting a lot on what's going on in Gemini with the Mars and Uranus conjunction. But I've been thinking particularly about Mercury. I want to spend some time with the figure who stands behind the planet Mercury, behind Gemini, but also language exchange, roads, symbols, and that mysterious art of making meaning from patterns. Hermes, and perhaps more particularly, the magician. When we hear that word magician, we often think of someone with special powers who could command reality through sheer force of will. But the older image is more interesting than that. The magician is a mediator, a traveller between worlds. She is a reader of signs and a figure who understands that life is always speaking through symbols, images, dreams and stories, encounters and the movement of the heavens, through the words we use with one another. Hermes is the Greek god of the threshold. He belongs to the roads and crossroads, to travellers and trade, writing and language, the invention, negotiation, luck, mischief, sleep, dreams, passage between life and death. He's the messenger of the gods, and he's never simply just a dutiful messenger. He's not your local courier. Hermes is quick and clever, adaptable and really elusive. He can move between Mount Olympus and the human world, between the living and the dead, and what's known and what's not yet found language. In the Homeric hymn, Hermes is born in the morning, and he makes a lyre from tortoiseshell, steals Apollo's cattle, covers his tracks, and then has to face Apollo's anger. That's all in a day. Yet that story moves towards exchange. Hermes offers the lyre to Apollo, and Apollo's won over by its music. That's a really mercurial story. There's a disruption. It's taken out. Something's taken out of the old order. It's followed by deception, quick thinking and argument, and then a new form of relationship emerges. That lyre becomes a bridge between both Hermes and Apollos. Hermes shows us an intelligence, but it doesn't always arrive in an orderly way. It can be an idea that arrives as a complete disturbance to us, interrupting the story we've got comfortable telling. Sometimes it carries mischief or it exposes a contradiction, and often it will refuse to allow the old arrangement to remain intact. But Hermes also asks us what we do with that disruptive intelligence. So the question we can ask ourselves is, do we use that to evade responsibilities? Are we using words to get the upper hand? And have we become so attached to being clever that we lose contact with the truth? That's very archetypally Hermes, Mercury. Can we allow the disruption to become a new conversation or piece of music, a new way through, just as Hermes gave the lyre to Apollo? But this is the point where Hermes is deeply relevant to the magician archetype. Carl Jung himself didn't place the magician into a neat fixed category in the way that popular archetype systems often do. But the figure appears throughout his work in different forms. We've got the wise guide, the wise old man, the healer, the teacher, the trickster, and especially Mercurius, the mysterious alchemical spirit transformation. Mercurius is quicksilver, volatile, slippery, and difficult to contain. So he's both spirit and matter, helpful and disruptive, can be the guide and the trickster. So Mercurius is carrying energy of something that moves between opposites and refuses to settle too quickly into one clear identity. In alchemy, he's often presented as a hermaphrodite. Psychologically, it can be part of us that translates an inner image into language. It can be that dream that stays with us, that we wake up with and we can't shake, and it slowly opens to us. Or it can be a conversation that gradually changes our perspective. But it can also be a sudden realization that the old narrative no longer explains what's happening in our world. Yet Mercurius can also become that scattered thought, restless seeking. It can be endless interpretation, or the belief that because we can name something, we've mastered it. That's one of the shadow forms of the magician, that fantasy of control. That belief that knowledge makes us superior or symbol gives us power over another person. That spirituality gives us a way to avoid the difficulty of being human. It can also be the fantasy of control, that words can be used to obscure, manipulate, win, rather than to reveal and connect. And Hermes has always carried this ambiguity. He's patron of both merchants and thieves. He guides souls, but he can also deceive. He's the god of language, but that language can clarify or confuse. He rules exchange, and that exchange might be mutual, nourishing and alive, or it can become exploitative. So the magician asks for more than intelligence. He asks for consciousness. In antiquity, Hermes, putting it precisely, it was Hermes Trismegistus, was remembered as a primordial authority behind astrology. Hermes Trismegistus brought together the Greek Hermes and the Egyptian Thoth, and both were figures of writing, calculation, sacred knowledge, language, and the interpretation of signs. In one of the Egyptian origin stories, Hermes credited with first observing the ordered arrangement of the stars. Later writers describe Egyptian astrologers learning from the book attributed to Hermes, including material concerning the fixed stars, the sun, the moon, and their risings and conjunctions. But it's not giving us a historically literal founder of astrology. Horoscopic astrology emerged through a meeting of Babylonian astral science, Egyptian religious and calendrical knowledge, and Greek philosophical thought. But the ancient memory of Hermes tells us something more important about how astrology was understood. Hermes doesn't create the stars, he makes their patterns speak. He's the interpreter, and that's the deeper purpose of astrology. Our natal charts don't imprison us inside a fixed script. It offers us a language through which we can enter into a relationship with time and pattern, with the movements of life, and with the mysteries we're already living in. The magician stands at the meeting place between the visible and invisible. So he stands between the sky and the psyche, and the event and the meaning we make of it. So this is really important as our world is moving so quickly, communications moving so quickly. We're living now inside a constant stream of messages, headlines, alerts, posts, images, opinions, arguments, predictions. We got advertising, outrage, fear, hope. And each message is asking for a piece of our attention. It's carrying that emotional charge. There's some that really inform us, but a lot that manipulate us. And when we read, we can feel powerful for a moment. And that can sometimes leave us further from the ground beneath our feet. Mars moving towards Uranus and Gemini can bring that heightened atmosphere around communication, technology, transport, information, argument and sudden developments. It can bring breakthrough thinking, but also reactivity. So we can have necessary interruptions, but also a rush to say something before we've truly understood what we're seeing. But Hermes at the Crossroads offers another possibility, a pause, to ask what message is actually arriving, to ask what's been added to it by fear or urgency that's coloured it with an old grievance by the desire to be right or a wish to control the outcome. We need to ask what we're carrying forward, because we're all messengers in some sense. We're carrying language from one person to another. We repeat stories, pass on assumptions, tell ourselves who we are, what's possible, what people are like, and what the future holds. The magician's work involves becoming more responsible for the messages we transmit. There might be an old story within you that's ready to be questioned this month, a story that has travelled through your family, culture or past relationship, or by your own disappointments. It might be a story that protected you at some point but now limits your ability to respond in the present moment. Hermes is capable of moving between worlds because he doesn't remain trapped in one realm. The magician asks whether we can move between the old story and the present reality. So between our instinct and reflection, or that private feeling with our shared language, but also between the desire to act and that wisdom of timing. And the tarot magician stands in front of a table holding the 4 tools, the wand, the cup, the sword and the pentacle. He has fire, water, air and earth. So will, feeling, thought and embodiment. And that image is one of beautiful sobriety. That magician isn't standing empty-handed, waiting for a distant power to arrive. The tools are already present, but they need to be used in relationship with one another. If we have thought, swords without feeling, cups, we can become cold and manipulative. But cups, feeling without pentacles, grounding, can become overwhelmed. Will, fire, wands, without reflection can become destructive, and spiritual vision without that embodiment can drift away from the actual work of life. So the mature magician gathers the tools and learns how to work with them. And that, I think, is the invitation of this moment. To be alert to what is moving quickly through our collective field and through our minds, to notice where a message has charge and where a conversation changes the atmosphere, to notice where a new idea opens a path and where cleverness might be tempting us away from our deeper values. And there's no need to have the whole meaning immediately. Hermes teaches us that meaning can arrive through movement, through dialogue, through detour, through a question that unsettles the certainty we thought we needed. And the magician asks us to remember that the way we speak, listen, interpret and respond is part of how we participate in the world. So maybe the question for us to carry through the opening of July is, what message is seeking to move through me and how can I carry it with integrity? And that is what I have for you. Thank you for being here. And I'll be back on Monday with the broader picture of the sky. And until then, I invite you to be tender with yourselves. Be honest with what is surfacing and listen carefully for what is alive at depth. Have a restful weekend, and I will see you on the next one.